first. All right. Recording time. Recording time. 1, 2, 3. Fuck.
Oh, sorry, were you in the middle of something? Sorry. I made lunch. Banh mi. My brother makes it at family gatherings, and I thought I'd try my hand at it. He gave me his recipe, but I'm, not that great of a cook, so I can't guarantee it's gonna be great, but it is getting cold. So, do you want some? Or...
Banh mi sounds great, but I was just about to start recording. Do you want to introduce yourself to the mic? I'm gonna keep the extra recordings and stuff just for me, I guess, a journal type thing. My therapist did recommend I start journaling, but writing is hard as fuck. Talking into a microphone is much easier.
Oh. Yeah, sure, I guess. Check. So, my name's Fish. Just Fish. I picked it out myself because I really like fish, you know? Anglers and stonefish. Mostly stonefish, actually. Anyway, I'm here to make sure that Mr. Skeptic over here isn't going haywire, given all the bullshit I've been hearing lately.
I am not going haywire. Maybe I should just do an introduction myself. Okay. Hi. Hi. I'm Lori. I picked out my own name too. It sounds like a bird's name. I really like birds. They're really cool. And I'm not going haywire anytime soon. Things are just a little bit weird. It's probably just hallucinations. It's nothing.
Oh, yeah, real convincing there. No, I'm 100% convinced by that, actually. Oh, absolutely, definitely. Fucking weirdo.
Listen, shut the fuck up. I'm excited for lunch. I don't remember the last time that I ate, actually.
Yeah, that's kind of the point, getting some food in your stomach. Hopefully you ate before that tattoo, though. Looks new. You get that done while I was out? Thought you'd tell me about it, but, what's your obsession with eyes lately, anyway? It's like a whole thing.
I just think they're cool, okay? I got the tattoo a couple days ago, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that I got something to eat before I got it. It's not a big deal. Shit happens, you know? It's not a big deal.
Yeah, that's kind of the point, getting some food in your stomach. Hopefully you ate before that tattoo, though. Looks new. You get that done while I was out? Thought you'd tell me about it, but, what's your obsession with eyes lately, anyway? It's like a whole thing.
I, yeah. Okay, let me just get out of here. And we're back. Lunch has been eaten. I feel a lot better, honestly. And I think it's a good time to record. Where? Fish left for work a little while ago. Which means the only idiot in the house with me is my dog. I'll be able to work now, I think. even if reading makes me feel all fucking weird. It's not a great feeling. Not a great feeling at all. Fuck. Okay. Um, take one of Rumpelstiltskin. Take 5, I think, of Rumpelstiltskin. Take 9 of Rumpelstiltskin. Read by Laurie Adams. Once upon a time, there was a miller who was poor, but he had a beautiful daughter. Now it happened that he was talking with the king one time, and in order to make himself seem important, he said to the king, "I have a daughter who can spin straw into gold." "That is an art that pleases me," the king replied. "If your daughter is as talented as you say, then bring her to my castle tomorrow, and I'll put her to the test." When the maiden was brought to him, he led her into a room that was filled with straw. There he gave her a spinning wheel and a spindle and said, "Now get to work. If you don't spin this straw into gold by morning, then you must die." Then he locked the door himself, and she remained inside all alone. The miller's poor daughter sat there feeling close to her wit's end, for she knew nothing about spinning straw into gold, and her fear grew greater and greater. When she began to weep, the door suddenly opened, and a little man entered. "Good evening, Mistress Miller. Why are you weeping so?" "Oh," answered the maiden, "I'm supposed to spin straw into gold, and I don't know how." The little man then said, "What will you give me if I spin it for you?" "My necklace," the maiden said. The little man took the necklace and sat down at the wheel, and whiz, 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 3 times round, the spool was full. Then he inserted another one, and whiz, 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 the second was full. And so it went until morning, when all the straw was spun, and all the spools were filled with gold. The king appeared right at sunrise, and when he saw the gold, he was surprised and pleased, but his heart grew even greedier. He locked the miller's daughter in another room that was even larger than the first, and ordered her to spin all the straw into gold if she valued her life. The maiden did not know what to do and began to weep. Once again the door opened, and the little man appeared and said, "What will you give me if I spin the straw into gold for you?" "The ring from my finger," answered the maiden. The little man took the ring, began to work away at the wheel again, and by morning he had spun all the straw into shining gold. The king was extremely pleased by the sight, but his lust for gold was still not satisfied. So he had the miller's daughter brought into an even larger room filled with straw, and said to her, "You must spin all this into gold tonight. If you succeed, you shall become my wife." To himself he thought, "Even though she's just a miller's daughter, I'll never find a richer woman anywhere in the world." When the maiden was alone, the little man came again for the 3rd time and asked, "What will you give me if I spin the straw into gold once more?" "I have nothing left to give," answered the maiden. "Then promise me your first child when you become queen." "Who knows whether it will ever come to that?" thought the miller's daughter. And since she knew of no other way out of her predicament, she promised the little man what he had demanded. In return, the little man spun the straw into gold once again. When the king came in the morning and found everything he had wished, he married her, and the miller's daughter became a queen. After a year she gave birth to a beautiful child. The little man had disappeared from her mind, but now he suddenly appeared in her room and said, "Now give me what you promised." The queen was horrified and offered the little man all the treasures of the kingdom if he would let her keep her child. But the little man replied, "No, something living is more important to me than all the treasures in the world." Then the queen began to grieve and weep so much that the little man felt sorry for her. "I'll give you 3 days' time," he said. "If you can guess my name by the 3rd day, you shall keep your child." The queen spent the entire night trying to recall all the names she had ever heard. She also sent a messenger out into the country to inquire high and low what other names there were. On the following day, when the little man appeared, she began with Caspar, Melikor, Balzer, and then repeated all the names she knew, one after the other, but to all of them the little man said, "That's not my name." The second day she had her servants ask around in the neighboring area what names people used, and she came up with the most unusual and strangest names when the little man appeared. "Is your name ribs of beef, or mutton chops, or laced leg?" But he always replied, "That's not my name." On the 3rd day, the messenger returned and reported, "I couldn't find a single new name, but as I was climbing a high mountain at the edge of the forest, where the fox and the hare say good night to each other, I saw a small cottage, and in front of the cottage was a fire, and around the fire danced a ridiculous little man who was hopping on one leg and screeching, 'Today I'll brew, tomorrow I'll bake, soon I'll have the queen's namesake. Oh, how hard it is to play my game, for Rumpelstiltskin is my name.' And you can imagine how happy the queen was when she heard the name. As soon as the little man entered and asked, 'What's my name, your highness?' she responded first by guessing. 'Is your name Kunz?' 'No.' 'Is your name Heinz?' 'No.' 'Can your name be Rumpelstiltskin?' 'The devil told you! The devil told you!' the little man screamed, and he stamped so ferociously with his right foot that his leg went deep into the ground up to his waist. Then he grabbed the other foot angrily with both hands and ripped himself in two. There's another number for me to read. Another story. I didn't say this in my personal introduction, but I'm working for like something akin to an audiobook company. These are my story recordings. Not perfect by any means, but they're all right enough. And not really ever my final takes. I like this job. Fully remote, surprisingly good pay for it being paid by commission mostly. I don't know why people would want these stories read out, but that's beside the point. I make enough to get a pretty nice apartment for me and Fish. They sent me this collection of stories to read from. It's in this big book, this big paperback book. And I get emails with the story numbers that they want me to read because they're all numbered in this book. And the stories are never more than a couple pages at a time, which is kind of weird because the recordings end up being pretty short that way. I don't know if they want more from me for it, but that's also beside the point. Anyways, take 1 of Briar Rose, read by L'Oreal. Take 3 of Briar Rose. Okay. You can do this, Lori. It's not that hard. You're just talking into a fucking microphone. Okay. Take 13 of Briar Rose, read by Lori Adams. In times of old there lived a king and queen, and every day they said, "Oh, if only we had a child!" Yet they never had one. Then one day, as the queen went out bathing, a frog happened to crawl ashore and say to her, "Your wish shall be fulfilled. Before the year is out, you shall give birth to a daughter." The frog's prediction came true, and the queen gave birth to a girl who was so beautiful that the king was overjoyed and decided to hold a great feast. Not only did he invite his relatives, friends, and acquaintances, but also the wise women, in the hope that they would be generous and kind to his daughter. There were 13 wise women in his kingdom, but he only had 12 golden plates from which they could eat. Therefore, one of them had to remain home. The feast was celebrated with tremendous splendor, and when it drew to a close, the wise women bestowed their miraculous gifts upon the child. One gave her virtue, another beauty, the third wealth, and so on, until they had given her nearly everything one could possibly wish for in the world. When 11 of them had offered their gifts, the 13th suddenly entered the hall. She wanted to get revenge for not having been invited, and without greeting anyone or looking around, she cried out with a loud voice, "In her 15th year the princess shall prick herself with a spindle and fall down dead." That was all she said. But then she turned around and left the hall. Everyone was horrified, but the 12th wise woman stepped forward. She still had her wish to make, and although she could not undo the evil spell, she could nevertheless soften it. "The princess shall not die," she said. "Instead, she shall fall into a deep sleep for 100 years." Since the king wanted to guard his dear child against such a catastrophe, he issued an order that all the spindles in his kingdom were to be burned. Meanwhile, the gifts of the wise women fulfilled their promises in every way. The girl was so beautiful, polite, kind, and sensible that whoever encountered her could not help but adore her. Now, on the day she turned 15, it happened that the king and queen were not at home, and she was left completely alone in the palace. So she wandered all over the place and explored as many rooms and chambers as she pleased. She eventually came to an old tower, climbed its narrow, winding staircase, and came to a small door. A rusty key was stuck in the lock, and when she turned it, the door sprang open, and she saw an old woman in the little room sitting with a spindle and busily spinning flax. "Good day, old granny," said the princess. "What are you doing there?" "I'm spinning," said the old woman, and she nodded her head. "What's the thing that's bobbing around in such a funny way?" asked the maiden, who took the spindle and wanted to spin too, but just as she touched the spindle, the magic spell began working, and she pricked her finger with it. The very moment she felt the prick, she fell down on the bed that was standing there, and she was overcome by a deep sleep. This sleep soon spread throughout the entire palace. The king and queen had just returned home, and when they entered the hall they fell asleep, as did all the people in their court. They were followed by the horses in the stable, the dogs in the courtyard, the pigeons on the roof, and the flies on the wall. Even the fire flickering in the hearth became quiet and fell asleep. The roast stopped sizzling, and the cook, who was just about to pull the kitchen boy's hair because he had done something wrong, let him go and fell asleep. Finally, the wind died down so that not a single leaf stirred on the trees outside the castle. Soon a briar hedge began to grow all around the castle, and it grew higher each year. Eventually it surrounded and covered the entire castle so that it was no longer visible. Not even the flag on the roof could be seen. The princess became known by the name of Beautiful Sleeping Briar Rose, and a tale about her began circulating throughout the country. From time to time princes came and tried to break through the hedge and get to the castle. However, this was impossible because the thorns clung together tightly as though they had hands, and the young men got stuck there. Indeed, they could not pry themselves loose and died miserable deaths. After many, many years had gone by, a prince came to this country once more, and heard an old man talking about a briar hedge. Supposedly there was a castle standing behind the hedge, and in the castle there was a remarkably beautiful princess named Briar Rose, who had been sleeping for 100 years along with the king and queen and their entire court. The old man also knew from his grandfather that many princes had come and had tried to break through the briar hedge, but they had got stuck and died wretched deaths. "I am not afraid," said the young prince. "I intend to go and see the beautiful Briar Rose." The good old man tried his best to dissuade him, but the prince would not heed his words. Now the 100 years had just ended, and the day on which Briar Rose was to wake up again had arrived. When the prince approached the briar hedge, he found nothing but beautiful flowers that opened of their own accord, let him through, and then closed again like a hedge. In the castle courtyard he saw the horses and the spotted hunting dogs lying asleep. The pigeons were perched on the roof and had tucked their heads beneath their wings. When he entered the palace, the flies were sleeping on the wall. The cook in the kitchen was still holding his hand as if he wanted to grab the kitchen boy, and the maid was sitting in front of the black chicken that she was about to pluck. As the prince continued walking, he saw the entire court lying asleep in the hall, with the king and queen by the throne. Then he moved on, and everything was so quiet he could hear himself breathe. Finally, he came to the tower and opened the door to the small room in which Briar Rose slept. There she lay, and her beauty was so marvelous that he could not take his eyes off of her. And then he leaned over and gave her a kiss, and when his lips touched hers, Briar Rose opened her eyes, woke up, and looked at him fondly. After that they went downstairs together, and the king and queen woke up along with the entire court, and they all looked at each other in amazement. Soon the horses in the courtyard stood up and shook themselves. The hunting dogs jumped around and wagged their tails. The pigeons on the roof lifted their heads from under their wings, looked around, and flew off into the fields. The flies on the wall continued crawling. The fire in the kitchen flared up, flickered, and cooked the meat. The roast began to sizzle again, and the cook gave the kitchen boy such a box on the ear that he let out a cry, while the maid finished plucking the chicken. The wedding of the prince with Briar Rose was celebrated in great splendor, and lived happily to the end of their days. Really can't say I'm a big fan of the whole, lack of consent thing. Who just kisses some sleeping 115-year-old? Jesus, fuck, get some manners. Why didn't the prince just try shaking her? Why did he just immediately kiss her? What the fuck? Anyways, I couldn't stop yawning during that recording, if that says anything about my thoughts on it. I hope I didn't put you to sleep, at least, whoever ends up listening to this. I think I need to go to bed. Good night. And recording. Antecedently is written, voiced, and produced by Crow Strider. If you'd like to contact us, you can email us at antecedently.podcast@gmail.com or find us on Twitter @antecedentlypod. Thanks for listening.